Hey everyone, this is Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. With your hosts, the real Theo Harvey and Mr. Benja, coming with all the relevant info about the week in pop culture. So, Mr. Benja, what are we covering today?
All right, we got 5 good stories for you as always because we bring the heat like we do. First off, we're gonna talk about Disney. They're going in on gambling. This is kinda interesting. There's this whole thing with Disney and Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, Penn Entertainment. We're gonna talk about all that, but a lot of money's involved and a lot of brand issues are involved. Thea's gonna give more information on that later. But it's kinda wild. Also, Netflix is going interactive again. So they're still trying this interactive thing. We're going to see how it works out. What's the play? Nobody else is really doing it like them. In fact, pretty sure they may be the only ones doing it. But we'll see how this works for their interactive push into the streaming war. Not gaming, interactive. Also, we've got Marvel VFX workers. They're looking to form a union. They're kicking up some dust, making some noise. We're going to see how this works out. Does it have a chance? Is this what's necessary? And could it even move into games if it succeeds in Hollywood? We'll see. And of course, we've got the hip hop 50th anniversary. 50 years of this stuff, man. It's pretty incredible. So the fact that I was around for some of the early parts of it, haven't hit the 50 yet, but I was around for some of the early parts. Theo was too. We're gonna talk about that, reminisce a little bit, probably mention some songs you wish you hadn't heard again because it was 50 years ago. Or maybe you're nostalgic and you love that kind of stuff. We're gonna give it to you anyway. And of course, we always got to talk a little bit about crypto and NFT land once in a while. Even after all this time, get news of the biggest crypto heist in history. It's stupid because a lot of crypto is stupid, but the story's fun. So we're going to bring it to you. So how does that sound, Theo?
Good, man. Let's get into it, brother.
Let's get into it. Hey, you said we weren't stopping this time. We're going to cut through, no breaks. You know, I don't care. Film it. I'm going live. I'm going hot. Is that what we're doing?
That's what we're doing, man. Let's do it. Man. So, wow, this week, man, I know we typically go into a little banter at the beginning. Interesting week, man. So, this is my segment to kind of give you the latest and greatest on books and TV shows I'm into. So, first, TV show recommendation. The new show on Stars called Heels. Have you heard of this show, Heels?
No.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's too much, man. It's too much out there. But Heels is basically the guy, Stephen Mill, who used to be Arrow, right, in the CW Arrowverse. He created a new show about small town wrestling. This is set in a fictional town called
Heels.
Duffy,
Okay.
Georgia, and they're doing a view of what small town life is like, but now from a perspective of wrestling. So they actually go behind the scenes on how they script wrestling, how they set the storylines up, how they maneuver all that from a small town perspective. At first, I was like, I don't know about this show, but I like wrestling. We talk about sometimes in
Yeah.
our affinity and standing in line overnight to go see Booker T. Tallahassee Coliseum. We may or may not have been there, but in the front row. But anyway, so our love of wrestling is known, but this show kind of gets it about like, what people are fascinated about. It's kind of like a mix of Friday Night Lights. I don't know if you ever saw that show or a movie, mixed like small town life mixed with sports. But the thing I'm digging about is not so much the motif for wrestling, which they had me there, but the script writing is fantastic, man. The way they put words together, the writer, Michael Mallory, he used to be an actor and he started to write a lot of shows. He wrote one of the shows back in early 2000s. It was LeBron's show called Survivor's Guilt about this basketball player trying to bring his family along as he became pro. But Michael Mallory is a great writer, man. The dialogue alone is hilarious. The way they talk, a lot of alliteration, a lot of metaphors, a lot of flowery language, but in that Southern drawl. So like,
Yeah.
they talking like Shakespeare, but they got that Southern drawl, to be or not to be, my brother, it's like, just everything they talk about, but it's very, the dialogue keeps you on the toes. And it's like one of the very few shows that I watched where, okay, I know where this scene is going. When fast
Yeah.
forward it, I'm like, no, let me just stay in this scene. They might say something interesting and it never disappoints. So if you
So
like wrestling, go check out Heels.
you even reminded me of the great the fact that all these wrestlers, their mouthpiece and how they had to talk was such a integral part of their persona and their character. When when Scott Steiner did Steiner Math and, the Macho Man and
Ooh.
when Booker T started talking about, he dropped the N-bomb and they had to on live TV, "I'll show that. Oh my god, and yeah, it's just
I
funny. So I
mean,
might
the,
have
the classic Ric Flair, Ric Flair. Woo,
yeah,
that makes you boy. Just, I mean, that's part of it too, right? So these wrestlers have to be bigger personalities. I mean, that's the always fascinating about wrestling as I've gotten into it more. Now that, like we talked about before on, I think on this podcast, wrestling has been, they're going behind the scenes more and more. That's almost kind of like
yeah,
part of it now. Before back in the day, oh yeah, this is real, Is that fake? Is it real? But now there's like, oh yeah, it's fake. It's all get out. But
yeah,
there's real emotion sometimes, or, it's real injuries. And it's fascinating because these guys are, obviously physically fit and putting their bodies in danger, but also they're like great, intelligent people because they have to speak so well and on their feet all
yeah.
the time. It's hilarious. So that show captures all that.
Now what I wanna know is I don't think I've ever heard you mention Stars before, but you're on that too?
Man, I told you, man, I want everything, man. For me, to me, it's just like,
I know I know somebody who's on 17 services. Uh, I don't know if you've hit 17 yet, services, but yeah, I don't see how you do it. Well, I guess I do see how you do it, but that's awesome. I applaud that.
it's just not awesome. I try to cancel stuff. Like only reason why I was on Paramount Plus, I'm about to cancel that because of Star Trek, and now that's over. I'm canceling that. So I'm like you. I kind of rotate. Create a new email and try to get take subscription. And opt out. So yeah, because I think at one time it was optimal to kind of look at these different shows, but as we're seeing the streaming service, that the streaming wars are real. And so, these the prices are going up higher and higher. So we have to be aware of that. So anyway, so
Yeah,
that's
carry
a
on.
show I highly recommend.
All right.
Oh yeah, and the other recommendation I have for a book. Have you heard this book, Never Split the Difference?
I've heard of it. I may have actually started on it at some point. What's it about?
Yeah, it's a negotiation book written by one of the top FBI hostage
Oh,
negotiators.
Voss. It was on
Yep.
my list and I never really got into it. Yeah, but I know of it.
Definitely very, very well good book. And what made it better was actually listen to him on a podcast, get a better sense of his perspective. So high level, he's saying, so I went to grad school, those MBA, and he's right. There's this book called Getting to Yes, and it's very about like having BATNA, best alternative to negotiate its alternative. So there's all these different, rules you can follow when they negotiating, one on one that's logical, right?
Yeah,
And trying to figure out what's the best way to kind of win in the negotiation. But he says, throw all that crap out the window. It's really about human emotions and how you manage that. And that's how you win all negotiation. Because the logic goes out the window when there's emotions involved. And so his premise is basically once you kind of get rid of that, you can now have a better conversation with people. And so he recommends several things like, changing your voice. So always have a chipper voice when you're talking to people and negotiating. Hey, Mr.Benja, how you doing?
yeah,
That's like the friendly voice. Never go into like the direct voice. Mr.Benja, this is what we're gonna do. You never win your negotiation that way. But if you do have a situation where you're negotiation where you have a hard line, like you can't go lower than this cost point, or there's certain things you're just not gonna do,
yeah.
he just says very clearly, say it in your best FM DJ voice. We don't send flowers. And that's it. And 9 times out of 10, people will accept that as a hard line, and it doesn't cause any cross feelings, like as if you put a more direct hard line. So people don't feel attacked.
Yeah.
And so that's one tactic. He has many
I g
tactics,
I
but the whole
gotta
premise is,
I gotta get in on this book. I've been recently dealing with there's some people who are more on the social, emotional side. I end up more on the if you're talking about a quadrant here, I end up more on the mental, logical side, mental and physical side, logical, physical side. So, yeah, hearing this, I'm just like coming back around to it again. Like, yeah, yeah,
Well, the thing was, I heard about it from, we talked about gurus. One of the gurus I listened to, Rob Panay, he talked about it like a year ago, a couple years ago. Then I recently heard it from this Christian broadcaster, podcaster. He talked about it. And then I heard Van Lathan, from The Ringer and from, what's that? Got the name of it, the little celebrity joint. He used to go around celebrity gadget joint he used to work for. Van Lathan, he talked about it. So I'm
wait,
like,
wait,
wow,
talk about this book in particular.
yeah, this book in particular, 3 different categories from different industries. They all talked about this book, and I was like,
That's
"Okay, I gotta
it's
read
not
this
it's
book."
not a new book. This book is like 7 years old.
Exactly. I heard about it recently in the last from the 2 sources I told you, Christian Broadcast and Van Lathan and then I heard it about a year ago, and so it was always on my list, and I think even Alex Hormozy talked about it too. So it's one of those books that if you're in sales, which let's be honest, we're all in sales, we're all in negotiation. I have kids,
Yeah,
I'm negotiating with them all the time. It's a way to kind of get beyond just the logic of and get into the emotion of it and making sure you can kind of control that aspect of it. And he said the hardest negotiation is with your friends and family because they know you and they know your trigger point. And so that the hardest part is trying to keep your emotions in check.
yeah.
So to get through the negotiation. So highly recommend that book. Never Split the Difference. Been around for a while, but the techniques I'm learning has really reshaped how I communicate with everybody, from my team to my wife, even to myself, so that people, because ultimately, you know, a negotiation is, and the reason why he's about the way he does his negotiation, because he couldn't lose, right? If he lost, someone
Somebody
died, right?
died. Yeah,
So now he's like, look, if you want to win and not having to split the difference, you can't split a hostage, right? So, work on these techniques because they're really going to help you come to common ground and get somewhere with the other person you're talking to. And so anyway, highly recommend the book. That's a freebie.
oh, snap. Freebie. I don't have to
Well,
Venmo you for that
what
one. Alright,
about you,
sweet.
Mr. Benja?
Well, yeah, man, I'm always checking out new books, and it's funny. You think you can go down one direction, but then you start going down that direction, you realize you're kinda flipping somewhere else and you need to go research like, "Oh, well, I was in the middle of the sales process. Now I need to go learn about, like, emotions and negotiating." And so, now that I'm into emotions and negotiating, all these people come from the side of the world, and this is all they talk about. So I guess I need to understand this a little more. And you keep moving around, and within all that, I get very tired. Right? I'm just like, oh, okay. I started on this, and wait a minute, hold on a second. Let me go build this. Let me go build this community site. Okay, I need to learn about paywalls and how this whole thing is set up. Okay, let me stop and learn that. Okay, now you keep jumping around. I mean, it's all in motion towards one goal, right? But I've realized how important the workflow is. Just finding out your particular workflow. Like if I can find my cue, my reward, cue, response, and my reward, then I can just automatically get into that whole ritual state. I can get the workflow going. And I was saying, we've been talking about 10x for a while. And one of the things about it is you realize there's going to be a paradigm shift at some point because if you're shifting mindsets, you're shifting magnitude of what you're trying to do, you're going to make a change of some sort that you probably don't see coming. I was sitting back looking at my workflow and I was like, I wake up, I do this, I go there, they call, I handle this, and then there's that. Boom, dinner time. Crap. I'm hungry, so I got to eat dinner. Then that falls into place. And by the time I eat, go to bed, shit. Okay, I don't get like my maximum effort, and I sat down and I was bugging out trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this. And then I'm like, "You know what? I need to go back to the college days for a second."
Mm.
And then whenever I needed to really get something done, I would just have a little fun here and there, get some sleep in the afternoon, and then wake up and go all night. Ever since then, I've been going into nocturnal mode every so often. But now I'm actually realizing it like that's what I need to do. Cause I get up, I get up in the evening, you know, eat something really light and then just work all through the night. And the thing is, the deadline of the sun coming up is pretty entertaining to me because you're just like goofing around, like, hey, I'm up at night, no one's around. And then you're like, oh, crap, sun's going to come up. I'm going to get an email from my cousin. Then I got to talk to, okay, I got to back to work before all that crap starts. Because get that crap done in the morning, get your email sent, talk to your people, and you just want to get it done because you're tired from being up all night. And you're like, hey, look, I'm sorry, I'm talking to you. I know I gotta go. Okay, that's good. Okay, I'll talk to you then. I'll send the email back. And you're like, wow, that was very efficient. Cause I'm gonna eat a steak in the morning and then go to bed. True story. I am not kidding you. Yeah, in fact, after I get off this call, I gotta I got some sirloin in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
What are you eating for breakfast? Sirloin, dog. Why? Because I'm nocturnal and I'm a weird ass creative and I can do that.
I
So
love it. I love it. No, I mean, just 2 things come to mind. Number 1, I too get up I don't stay up all night, but I get up extremely early, like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that's, like, the best time ever. Because to your point, I'm, like, already banking my emails, planning my day, I've already done, like, some things already from some marketing stuff I had to do. Because 'cause you're right. Once that day hits, man, you don't know what's coming your way, and it's like, you just like this, bing, 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 and I hate that, man, when you get out of that flow state. Especially now, I realize that my mind is not as agile because sometimes, even when in the midst of doing something, I'll be like, "Okay, what was I doing real quick?" And it's like, oh, I hate getting out of that flow state, man. And so the mornings to me is, almost like religious that I have to get up and do it because I feel sick if I don't get anything, if I don't have something prepared before the day.
and then you just end up dragging on with the
Yeah.
rest of your day and it kind
Yes,
of
man, and that to me funny. So anyway, so those are some of the things I think. And then also I want to commend you on the other thing which you were talking about, how you had to get into the 10x mode. The very first story on the book we recommended everyone to read by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, 10x is easier than 2x. He talked about one of his first stories, Michelangelo, and how Michelangelo was going to build the first this big statue of Hercules. And he started down the path and he realized, man, I don't know shit about anatomy. And so he took that, put that to the side. And who knows how long he did this, but he went and actually found cadavers, which is illegal at the time, to study anatomy. He did it. It must have took a while because he did it so well that he knew anatomy better than some doctors of the time.
yeah,
So to your point, it's almost like they get into that 10x level. You start down the path of it, but then you have to switch your mindset, and to your point, your behaviors and activities to, you know, compensate to this 10x level you're getting to. And so I commend you on realizing that and switching modes because that's probably going to take you to the next level.
yeah. There was a book. I've got to find it. There was a website that was based on a book that I remember, but it had all the habits of like a lot of great achievers, and it was basically just calling them out as weirdos. But now when I look back, I'm like, no, no, I think they needed to do that to push themselves into a certain zone. You talk about musicians who some musicians, they come back like after doing a concert set or club set at 2 in the morning, and they're so amped up that they work until like 2 in the afternoon. And when I heard like people like Big Boy would do that every once in a while, I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, you get pumped up off the crowd and everything, and you got so many vibes. You're like, I'm gonna go work. It's like, oh, interesting. Yeah, just all kinds of different stories like that. So, I might try to format that and formulate it into a package where I can discuss it more appropriately, how that all works out, and definitely have some resources for you. And that might be another little mini course or ebook or something, knocking things out. Yeah,
Love
everybody,
it.
rub your chins because that might be coming. All right, you ready to get into this? Or you
Let's
got
do
more?
it, man.
All right.
No, I'm good. Let's get into it.
So we have got for you story number one. Disney. is coming in with some gambling action. How is Disney getting caught up in this whole gambling circus? Why is their name even involved? Who is Penn Entertainment? Who is Dave Portnoy? Why is this all the thing? I heard about this whole fiasco from Cody Sanchez, but there's a whole drama going on with Disney and Barstool Sports and all this. Theo, I'm gonna let you lay this one out since you're a little closer to this than I am. Not that you're a gambler or anything, but you're closer to the Disney business.
Yeah, just call me degenerate gambler, Mr. Benja. I love it. I love it. You know what? I am not. I used to gamble sometimes, man, but I just hate losing money. So I stopped. Vegas,
Good
I'm like,
idea.
"Eh, it's okay. Yeah, I just hate losing money, man. It's
Man,
just like,
this sucks.
yeah,
Why? I lose
yeah,
money.
it's fun. It's fun when you win, but when you lose, loss aversion. There's a award-winning paper, Nobel winning prize paper about that loss aversion. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, Disney, man. So Bob Iger is out here in these streets and just announced their quarterly results. And we talked about Disney on this off and on, but one of the big things they announced on this was the announcement that they're going in bed with Penn Entertainment. So for those that don't know, Penn Entertainment is has market share in the sports gambling arena. It competes against FanDuel. What's the other one? I forgot the other one. It's another big sporting site. But all these different sporting sites, and Disney signed a basically not Disney, but ESPN as a partner, which is owned 80% by Disney. ESPN signed a 10-year deal to go in with Penn Sports by gambling. So why is this important? I mean, sports gambling is huge. I mean, we don't talk about it as much, but I mean, if you ever played fancy sports, but then it'd be illegal for years. Vegas now had a hockey team, rumors just gonna get an NBA team. So sports gambling is gonna be explosive. And these remote gambling sites are trying to get more and more money, right? And so having a partner, Penn Entertainment with ESPN 10-year agreement is huge. Disney is going to give basically $2 billion for this deal. And that's going to be a great thing. Disney, who's looking for money right now. So, Mr. Benja, actually put me onto this. So let's take a step back here. So, why is this kind of interesting? Because not too long ago, Mr. Bob Chapek, who was running Disney at the time, had just hinted that Disney may start getting into the gambling business. Oh man, they flamed him so bad, man. They went off. This is not too long ago. This is basically 2020.
How dare you?
And yes, because Disney is a family brand. Now ESPN is not family brand, ABC is not family brand, but they're under the Disney umbrella. Any whiff of Disney being close to gambling is just like, oh no. And but here we are. Bob Iger, the matter of fact, Bob Iger was one of the ones who criticized Chapek for even mentioning that. Now we're in 2023. Disney is seeing the numbers not looking good for streaming services. We talked about this before, how he's struggling trying to figure out strategic direction. So he's bringing back old lieutenants like Kevin Mayer and Tom Zag. They have an upcoming $9 billion purchase of Comcast. And guess what? He's going to look under the cushions or change or anything he can do to get revenue in the pocket. And so that's what this deal is about. $2 billion opportunity to ESPN to partner for sports betting company. And I think that's going to change ESPN. Definitely. So we can talk more about that in a second, but there's an interesting business case on this. Mr. Benja. So Dave Portnoy, have you heard of him at Barstool Sports?
Yeah, so I actually ran across the whole Barstool Sports thing a little while ago. I didn't know it was such a thing, but I ran across it on Instagram. I was like, holy crap, this has a lot of comments and likes, and everybody's talking in there. Not just emoji comments, but like thousands of like real comments. And like, who is the Barstool Sports guys? Yeah, apparently they're just big players in the space, and they're a little raunchy, a little provocative, and basically, if you sit around a sports bar and talk noise, this is the kind of talk you get. It's not the sanitized version of, "Well, that was a very good play." It's like, "That motherfucker dropped that ball." It's they bring that into their whole sports, discussion and that whole vibe. So it's one of the more real entities out there. And that alone being involved with Disney it's kind of interesting. And I mean, that relationship, it's just two ideas you don't think of together. So,
Yeah, man, this Dave Portnoy, he's definitely a controversial figure. He's been out in these streets for a while talking noise. But so the interesting thing about this Penn Entertainment deal is that on the condition of ESPN buying them, well, before this Disney deal, Penn Entertainment actually went in business on Barstool Sports. I think they bought them out a large percentage for, was it 200, $500 million. Dave Portnoy, gave up percentage of his company, large percentage, and just said, okay, fine, I'm here. I'm, going to make this happen. So Penn Entertainment is trying to use this Barstool Sports, media company, right? Podcasts and all this stuff to try to promote betting. I don't think it worked out too well because as soon as, the controversy came up and all that, Penn Sports is like, this ain't working. So they went around to ESPN. ESPN said, sure, we can see a partnership here, but one condition. Yeah, get rid of that Barstool Sports. Get out of here with that crap because of the controversial Dave Portnoy. And
yeah,
so the rumor is that in order to condition this deal was that Penn Entertainment had to sell back Barstool Sports to Dave Portnoy, and I think he only got it for $1. So, mind you, he already got a large percentage of that 500 million when they first, bought it because I think they bought like 80, some big percentage of his company. So he got a lot of money there. He was able to buy back his company and get 100% ownership, $1, and if God forbid, he sells it again or something else happens, he gets another, what they call second bite of apple, because now, he owns 100% of it. And so whoever has to, buys it again, he gets additional money for reselling it again. Isn't that crazy? I've heard this
yeah,
before with some other companies, but yeah, if you're owner of a company, you sell it, get money, and but get it back and you resell it. Yes,
yeah.
you can absolutely get multiple times.
That is that is so awesome to me. Where you're just sitting down. Excuse me, sir. We'd like to buy that from you. All right, millions. Sure. Here's my sack of money. Boom. Say, sorry, we can't use this. Can we return it? You can sell it back to me for $1. Yeah, we really need to get rid of it. We'll take that dollar. Cool. Dollar. It's like, oh, I have this thing I just sold. What can I do with it? Oh, well, now since people are looking at it, maybe I'll sell it to somebody else. Hey, how about you? And it's just the fact that he's just basically done not too much and gotten all this money in these just deals is crazy awesome to me. I mean, yeah, I'm fascinated by it. It's awesome.
Business, man. Yeah, I love it. So anyway, this guy is doing well at the airport. No, good for him. But Disney's problems, man. Look, we just talked about it. In that same quarterly report, it talked about raising prices on streaming services. So, Hulu, which they own a large percentage of, Disney Plus, they're all going up, right, in their prices. I think the ad free Hulu is gonna go up to 18 a month. And Disney Plus, it's gonna be 14 a month. I think it's like when it first launched, it was like $6. Then it went up to like 12, so it's gonna go up to 14. So yeah, man, is Disney in trouble, man? This isn't combined with uh, the rumors of pending sale to Apple. They just announced that they lost 250 million on their overpriced Star Wars hotel. We talked about that where they had to shutter that down. I think the Galaxy Star Cruiser experience. So, man, what is going on with Disney, man?
I don't know. It's definitely worth checking out. We did a story on some of Disney's other shenanigans in the past 2 episodes, so be sure you go check those out. But I don't know, man. Maybe we're looking at a new era where, you gotta sell some of Disney off because, I mean, now that you've got stories like, "Hey, we're Disney. We don't deal with degenerate gamblers." And then someone's like, "Hey, wait a minute. Disney, for looking at what you've been doing, aren't you a degenerate gambler now?" And they're like, "Don't look at me." It's just like they're just gambling on stuff with the stock price and everything. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, they may need to sell off some of that stuff. If you ever look at a Disney chart and see all the stuff that they own, they probably need to get rid of some of that. Focus on their, I don't know, focus on their money makers or their core brand, whatever they want. Focus on something, but not on losing money. Don't focus on losing money. That's my
Never
sage.
does, man.
That's my
Never
sage
does.
business advice. Don't focus on losing money.
It's so losing money. Yeah. Wow, man, insightful, Mr.
What?
Benja. Yeah,
I go deep on the business side sometimes.
I see, man. What anecdote I want to put out there, just from insider knowledge. So, like I mentioned on this podcast, my nieces work at Disney, and yeah, man, that woke experience is real, man. They've seen people protest Disney. If you don't know, the whole Ron DeSantis governor went against Disney earlier this year, so he brought out the other elements of the right wing base that was attacking Disney. So we're seeing that. We'll review bombs of Disney shows and movies, but also at the Disney World parks, right? There are actually people showing up in different type of gear, Nazi gear, things like that, protesting. So yeah, it's real, man. So you got the parks attacks and parks. We talked about the movies not doing the greatest right now. We're talking about, closing down theme rides. And then we're talking about the writer's strike, right? The writers and actors strike. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of things coming at Mr. Mr. Iger at the same time. And it's definitely, as a business person, I definitely understand, that there's a lot that you have to contend with. So I'm hoping he can navigate these waters to keep it Disney independent. But I don't know, man. He may be the last CEO, I take last CEO of Disney if they sell it. So there you go.
Well, if he has no clue on how far Disney has fallen, maybe he should go watch a Secret Invasion. All right. Speaking of a secret invasion,
Boosh.
we've got story number 2. Netflix is trying interactive again. I don't know if you knew this, but Netflix has a few interactive shows in their roster. I'm not talking about the games application they tried a while ago. I mean interactive shows. Like in the middle of the show, you can make a decision that affects the direction of the show. So you tap on your remote or your controller or whatever input device you've got, and you can not automatically, you can manually adjust the story to take a certain path. Yes, it's like choose your own adventure. It's very organized and you don't have a lot of options, but nevertheless, it's a fun and exciting experience for some. Other people are like, okay, that's interesting. I'm just going to watch my regular shows. Theo, I think we talked about this a little while ago. I can't remember your exact impression on some of these shows. Bandersnatch was the big one that was more adult. Most of them were more child oriented, Minecraft and Puss in Boots. But Bandersnatch was what?
Plus, I thought
Puss,
it was
Puss,
puss. Is it puss?
Puss. It's Puss. Puss. I don't know why I said Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots would be yes, Puss in Boots was another one of those that had interactive elements to it. But Bandersnatch, did you ever check that out? What'd you think of it? How'd you like it?
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. I thought it was interesting concept. Basically, you can try different avenues to go down. And I thought it was very fascinating how they made you complicit in the pain you inflicted on the main character. So you felt some kind of way. And so I think it was the ultimate expression of what a Black Mirror episode's about, right? It's almost like, oh, look at this funny concept, but wait a minute, this is kind of how we act anyway. Oh, so I thought Bandersnatch kind of, you know, follow the themes of what Black Mirror is about. But they also, yes, a lot of kid oriented type of stuff, but they also just recently did a romantic comedy this way. So that was kind of interesting. And they did a comedy. They did what's it called? What's it called? The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I don't know if you ever saw that show. They actually did a movie where they did a kind of choose your own adventure type,
Yes.
gambit. So it was comedy based. So if you took too long, somebody came out and was cracking jokes at you. So like I said, Netflix commend them, trying these different ways to get people engaged. So I like it. I want to see more, entertainment like this. You know what this reminds me of? I'll leave it at this. But do you remember those DVD games back in the day, man? Those are
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
got to choose your own adventure. Yet, pick on a VH. And yeah, we're gonna tell our age, guys. There used to be just cassette tapes that you would have watch movies on, and it had a box. You would put the cassette tapes in and watch movies. Matter of fact, I still have some VHS tapes sitting around here somewhere.
Oh my
This was even before the DVD sets, which is also old now. But anyway, the VHS, they had party games where you would, choose your own adventure like adventures, choose your own adventure like stories. and based on your choices, the story will, branch off and do different things. So this is the first time Mr. Benja is a game designer. What did you think of those type of games and on this type of storytelling? Is this interesting to you? Is this like, eh, so?
Well, you've got a fundamental, and I've talked about this. You've got a fundamental pull against what's happening in an interactive an interactive situation like a game and a passive. I don't maybe passive is not the best word, but a non-interactive medium such as movies and film, where it's like, hey, we're presenting you with this definite ordering and piece of art. And how do you blend those two? How do you make, well, hey, the story's going this way. I just want to tell the guy to go that way. And it's like, what does that even mean? How do you resolve the story? Where are your character arcs? If you can just tell the character, F your art, go this way, it becomes weird. And there are ways to play it where it makes sense. Like I think Bandersnatch was it was really well done in terms of making sense, where you wanted to see things from all these different angles and that made sense. So I think that to crack that nut and really make it happen, you need to embrace the medium and not just use it as a gimmick because people are still trying to do the same old thing that they did with those old VHS tapes. And what it does is it makes a watered down story that's the many times more complicated to actually construct because it's not just like you have two branches. If you go down branch A, all the things they say in branch A have to make sense in a certain way. So it's not like you can reuse a lot of the same footage. You have to refilm things in the context of whether they went down path A or path B. And it starts to just split exponentially and get really complicated and difficult to edit. If you have to edit something, you can't edit it one time. You have to make sure that it goes through all the different branches. You start getting into combinatorial math in terms of how complicated the stupidity is. It's a headache without a lot of return. So it's difficult. And unless you've got a really good idea, I wouldn't advise it.
No. Okay. Well, they did another one too. I was thinking about it. I can't remember. Did you watch that with Giancarlo Esposito? It was like a heist movie and had different colors. The name.
But that one wasn't
They
like a
did
choose your own adventure. That
Ka-
was,
Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope. That was what it's called.
yeah,
Yeah, it
that
was.
was, that wasn't a
Yeah.
choose your own adventure, but you could just decide which order you wanted to
Which,
watch the episodes. They were
yeah.
all still the
Yeah. The
same
order.
episodes.
Yeah, they were you're right. They were standalone type episodes, but you could watch them in different orders. You had to watch the first one and I think the black one, the white episode, in the same order.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay.
But like with the choose your own adventure, a true choose your own adventure, if some guy gets shot, you have to make sure every other branch of the story references or shows that guy getting shot. If you happen to watch if you had to make a decision on that one branch where he got shot, every other version of that story has to show that. So
Yeah.
it gets really complicated very quickly. But these are a thing. These are a thing. Like if you go look at a lot of the Steam marketplace or the Xbox, not no, it's pretty much just Steam, I think, and a few online places. You've got a really dedicated group of people. A lot of them coming from Japan, Japan-based games. They have these things called visual stories, and you basically it's really boring and dry if you're not into them because they just show like a pretty static image with a bunch of text in the bottom of the screen going by. It's like a literally visual story. That's what it's set up as. So you're doing the choose your own adventure thing with these bad graphics, but I'm looking in the forums, I'm looking on Reddit and I'm looking online and the people who are into it are like, "Oh my gosh, you can get Cindy to eat a sandwich if you drop the key in this and make the decision to do this and that, and make sure you choose option B when you're talking to her." And it's like, just so you can get her to eat a sandwich? That's a weird little Easter egg. And it's like, "Oh, but it's cool, man. She said she didn't like sandwiches, but you made her eat the sandwich anyway." It's like, all right. But it's a very dedicated group of people who really enjoy this whole pushing the navigation of a story along and making characters do certain things. And the only reason I give this credence is because this desire to control the characters is strong. And
Mm.
we just talked about how people are using NPCs like in on TikTok with Pinky Doll, Cherry Crush, and all those other people. We've seen how excited people can get about choosing what their what their entertainment does. And I think there's room for this. I just don't know what it is. So I'm actually hopeful for Netflix that they'll crack this code.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, but in the meantime, they'll probably make some garbage. But it'll come one day. It'll happen one day. I'm all for it. They can call me. I'll bring out my game design chops and we'll do it again.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going on to story number 3. The Marvel VFX workers going on strike? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You heard about this one, Theo?
Well, yeah, I think we talked about this previously. Marvel, you remember their VFX head, Victoria Alfonso. She just recently got fired over there, and there was rumors that she ran special effects at Marvel like a sweatshop, right? So it's like getting all these movies out in 2 years was not easy. And it showed. I mean, we all seen the third acts of all these Marvel movies. They seem like a big VFX nightmare. And I think it came to a head when we saw Ant-Man Quantumania, right? We were so excited about it, and the VFX did not look done. And so it's been criticized before. And then, I think we know some artists in this space, and the rumors are that, Disney was just constantly pushing down prices and more work. So
Yeah.
these VFX artists have no choice because who did the majority of the jobs come from? Came from Disney. So if you didn't play ball, you would get blackballed and you would not be getting work again for a while. So now there's talk about a union to kind of mitigate against problems like this. And this is I think also this is driven by because I heard this about the reality TV stars too. They're trying to unionize too. And
What?
this is all driven by let's
They
let's
ain't
let's
real.
be honest. Yeah, they gonna try to unionize.
All
The
right.
story came out about a guy who said he lost his job because he was on the reality show Love Is Blind and he couldn't get a job again. So, take for what it's worth. But I say all that to say is that this is of a piece, right? We're now in the middle of a writer's strike and, who has a union, the actor strike who has a union. This is maximum leverage time for all artists, right? To
Yeah.
kind of say, hey, we're gonna strike too.
Yeah. To be
So this is what I'm seeing.
yeah, to be clear, there are people that do VFX that are unionized. I mean, you do have workers that,
Okay.
are in a union, but it's not like everybody. Like when you talk about actors and writers, it's pretty much like, "Oh, you're gonna be an actor? Well, I have somebody you should talk to." They ask you if you're part of the guild, you gotta get in and do your thing. It's a whole flow. You may have some sporadic people who are working in some sort of capacity that allows them to, do work under some sort of protections, but it's really not a normal thing. And it's necessary. I mean, in terms of people getting it bad, VFX workers can get it pretty bad. It's like, yeah, we're working on a movie and suddenly someone says, instead of him getting shot at the end, we're gonna have them wrestle and they're gonna fall off a cliff wrestling. And VFX guys are like, oh my God, getting shot is just like an effect and the guy falls over. A whole wrestling match is like, they got to, oh my God, oh my, And it's like, yeah. So same time schedule, guys. If you want to work ever again in your life, you're gonna do it. So sorry. It's like, what do you do against that? Terrible.
Yeah, yeah. So, and reading some of the articles out there, I think what's happening is too, we're seeing the VFX artists, they're trying to get represented by the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees or ATSE. The interesting thing about them, these are all the folks that do all the behind the scenes things like the lighting and, production work, the stages and all
Yeah.
that, camera workers. So, true story, my wife and I were in Atlanta not too long ago. There was an Uber driver who, as a camera person, she worked on all the TV shows there in Atlanta. She's driving Uber because she was out of work, right? Because of the work stoppage. But I talked to her. I said, "Hey, aren't you guys are union too? Are you guys looking at sea? Are you guys looking to use have a issues with your contract too?" She said, "Oh yeah, we're up next year." I said, "Oh crap." So yeah, so the BFX, y- you know, before BFX workers, they're looking to kind of be part of Etsy because there's already kind of a contract in place, and so if they
Yeah.
can become part of that union, then, and they're looking for things like minimum wage increases, pension plans, healthcare, mental meal penalty improvements, things like that. And so, but yeah, man, I think it's just business 101. The best time to uh, make an opportunity and make your move is when you have maximum leverage. And so, if you're working now in Hollywood, this is the time to, make your play. Because technically, if the reality is now not getting away from the VFX line, the reality stars, if they strike, imagine what that would do to the TV show. Matter of fact, fall TV is nothing but reality shows. If there's a strike for reality, there's nothing on TV at that point, unless they just do a bunch of reruns. So reality they have maximum opportunity now, right? To kind of say, no, no more Bachelor in Paradise. We're going to strike. Or not no. No. So I mean, you got to strike right iron top. Now the challenge is it's an organization, so you got to get people aligned to something. And so that's why Fran Dresser's plea during the beginning of the actor strike was so powerful because she was able to kind of mobilize, with an impassioned speech and a clear enemy, right?
Yeah.
The corporate overlords that now would clarify the organization. But when you don't have that vision for organization, people is creators, man. They're all over the place, man. You can't hold a creative down. So anyway, so I say all to say, good luck to the VFX workers, if they can get that going. But yeah, I've heard the horror stories. That doesn't look pleasant.
Yeah, hopefully it works out well. The thing that troubles me is that this type of move could push them even further away because of the need to do AI or
Mhm.
the want to lean into AI. And what I mean by that is, oh sure, you can unionize. We'll give you all these benefits. We'll give you all these provisions. We'll give you all these protections. But guess what? We only need 1/12 of you now. You know, so
Yeah,
we just don't need as many of you. We need, instead of 60 VFX artists, we need 5 of them and one AI director who's going to fill in the
yeah,
rest of the blanks. And what do you do against that? It's like
mm,
that's a hard case, and I think the industry is going to get tightened a little bit, and we might see, some drive VFX Uber drivers, more of that going on. Like, hey, before you get out the car, can I model your face right quick? And it's like, God, you leave me alone, you crazy VFX Uber driver.
Phew.
Oh man. All right, so yeah, we hope they all do well. But that's all I got for that one.
Love it.
Cool. So let's get on to story number 4. Hip hop. It was all a dream, baby. 50 years old. Old ass
You
movement.
know
I love
very
it.
well who
It's
you
gone
are.
classic. The people were telling me it was a fad when I was young. I said, no, breakdancing might be a fad. Hip hop is not a fad. Fast rap came along.
Oh,
Hey, fast rap might be a fad. Hip hop is not a fad. They told me, hey, the baggy pants, fad. I'm like, maybe, but hip hop is not a fad, son. And they're like, what's the difference? I'm like, you don't know? You don't need to know. Game is to be sold, not told.
no.
Hip hop, 50 years, man. I love it.
I hate hippity the hip the hop the beat. So yeah, man. Wow. August 11th, 1973, 50 years ago. Officially, that's the date that they're putting on the calendar.
Apparently, somebody decided.
Apparently, yes, they just Kevin Powell, a reality star from Real World. He's the hip hop historian, Kevin Powell. I don't know if you remember him.
I figured he'll do
Real
a good
World, New
job. Yeah,
York.
yeah, I trust that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, they declared Cool Herc's party, back to school party, was the official start of I think 1973, the official start of hip hop. So Yeah, Mr. Benja. I mean, love, hate. I mean, we talk a little stories of hip hop. It seems like we've been, you watch BET Awards or some stuff happened this year. I feel like we've been talking about this for the last 2 years, but it's here officially, 50 years of hip hop. Be honest with you, man, I didn't really get to hip hop till I would say maybe high school. I started listening to Black Sheep and, Outkast, of course,
Hmm.
and which is Southern hip hop. I was late to the game.
What were
I
you
didn't
into?
really get into like R&B, just pop, whatever, MC Hammer. Well, that's not considered hip hop, I know. So
Yeah, 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 okay, okay, okay. We'll say that. We'll say that.
so it was until like I got older, I was like, oh man, what's this stuff, man? And then, really got into it. And obviously went deep head and, got in college and all the old school stuff, man. But yeah, man, early, yeah, I was kind of late to the game, but I grew up in California. So I think also California wasn't the epicenter for it, right? It was really mostly the New York,
Right,
East Coast.
right.
And so California may have been a little delayed a little bit. We had our own version of it, of course, with, all that, but it wasn't really, I think New York and the East Coast really blew it up. And so that's probably why I
Yeah,
was late to the game. And I came
Cal
to the Florida.
yeah.
That's when I, went to high school.
Yeah, California had a lot of, it had funk going on, it had some I forgot what you call it, but there were different vibes out there in California that were still, black music and it was still funky, but it wasn't like quote unquote hip hop. And even down in Florida when I was coming up, there was a lot of partying and DJing. That's where you got like Two Live Crew and DJ Clay D. You get the stuff bumping in the club. Doom, 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 and everybody's like, "Ah," and you were kinda rapping over it, but it wasn't like we hadn't come together and said, "Okay, there's a vibe to all of this and it's hip hop."
Yeah, there's a name to it. Because you're right, everything was regional. People forget, man. It was so regional back in the day with music, man. If you grew up in California, I swear to God, we never heard anything Tupac and maybe Biggie. That's
Yeah,
it, man. And it was everybody was Ice Cube, NWA. And then, you go to Florida, or New Orleans, you had their own version of music there, the Bounce. You would go to DC, they had what's it called? I'm drawing a blank right now. But they had their own version of everything, man. And so it's like hip hop was in kind of what all encompassing thing until I think when the music videos started popping up, right? I think that's when it became
no,
more.
it came earlier than that. Well, okay, so when I first got introduced to hip hop, I was actually really young, and my brother both of my brothers were DJs. One of them was just a practicing DJ. He didn't like actually go out, and the other one actually went out and did music stuff. So they were both into music from a young age. But I remember, I clearly remember Rapper's Delight being brought in the house. My brother bought in the album of Rapper's Delight. Hip, the hop, the hip to the. And I was like, what? Because people have played around with this, but at the time it was like, listen, I got something here, and
What you hear is not a test.
yeah, cut through all the nonsense and you were just like, "Okay, this is touching on so much, and it's so new and so fresh." It's not like it had elements from what we heard from break dancers and stuff like that, but that was like a lot of remixed disco and stuff with beats to it. But this was like, we're taking it to another level of ownership. And right after that, you had, there was like Run DMC, Curtis Blow, the Fat Boys, and you mentioned VHS earlier. A lot of the stuff you were getting on VHS that you couldn't really get on MTV. MTV hadn't broken it yet. You know, Michael Jackson was out there doing his thing, but there were people like, Beat Street and, Ice T was in that movie. There was
Breaking was a big movie for me. I remember watching that now.
Yeah, breaking came a little later in the '80s though, right? Because we had the whole
Yeah,
breakdancing
late
thing, and
80s.
and that was
But I
this
think
was
that gave rise to like the Yo MTV Raps, right? And that's when it kind of really broke out. Yo MTV Raps, And I think, yeah, that's kind of when I was like, okay, this is a thing. This is gonna really
okay, so
blow it
yeah, you're
up.
saying what you're saying that's when it like started hitting the mainstream kind of consciousness. Uh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, definitely. That definitely makes sense. But I was actually jumping back to when we were talking about the genesis of like when rap started to get out there because it was heavy underground and it had to almost it was so loud on the underground that MTV had no choice but to start playing it.
Yep.
And, BET started playing things and they were like, at one point, I don't know where this came from. I don't know. There was the box that came out
Mhm.
where you could order music videos. There were, as I said, there were VHS tapes where it was like a bunch of dudes talking and sitting around, and then suddenly you'd have a music video. And it's like, what the hell is this? I'm looking here. Breaking was released in 1984. So yeah, this is about that time. It was just starting to break out. But point being, this idea, it was so amazing that from Rapper's Delight, from those first Run DMC albums, the Fat Boys, Curtis Blow, the transition from like what are those guys who did Planet Rock, African
Mhm.
Bambaataa, Melly Mel, the transition from just the party stuff into I'm actually going to package an album of raps and stories, Slick Rick, Rakim,
Mhm.
Eric B. and Rakim, and they're going to package
I
these
mean,
stories.
one of the first superstar solo act was it LL Cool J? Would you say that was like one of the first ones to kind of break
Superstar?
out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're talking about that he was that was after like Curtis Blow and the whole Crush Groove era.
Well,
Uh
they were like all groups, remember? I think wasn't just LL Cool J was the one to kind of be his own solo kind of thing. Remember, because he had that hype man would come out and just staying there like this.
yeah, yeah. I
He
mean, that's what
was
I'm talking about.
like,
He was there in the breakout session. Like when it started to
yes.
break out into the mainstream. Yeah, he was that guy. But before it was, before it broke out into the mainstream, yeah, you had Slick Rick, you had
Yeah, that's
all
true.
those other guys who were doing their thing, but it's not like they were on they didn't come on MTV until LL Cool J was like, "Hey, I'm famous. I learned stuff from this guy." "Hey,
Mhm,
here's this other
mhm.
famous guy, that no one knows about, but we had his tapes and everything, Eric B. and Rakim, and they had to bring him out a little later." You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm. So man, this is man, we can go deep into this, man. We probably maybe you want to table this for another session. Maybe we'll just go deeper into like a whole hip hop, hip hop
Hey,
hip
man.
hop.
Yeah, it's not a holiday thing, man. It happens all the time. So, yeah, definitely hip hop. We'll talk about that one later. But, yeah, that was my introduction, the whole genesis and all that. Very fascinating time. We do have to get more into it. And there was a big crypto heist, and for story number 5, yeah, we had a big crypto heist, biggest in history. Crypto is still here apparently.
That's it. It's gonna be a great short. Crypto heist is still here, guys.
And it's still bad.
It's it's still bad, guys. Well, hey guys. Well, look, hey everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Mr. Benja, was anything going on high level, real quick?
Nah, just follow me at MrBenja.com. Site is janky because I'm updating it, but check me out.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for your time. Please like, subscribe, and comment at Show versus Business on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You want to check us out? Go look at our website, Show versus Business. You'll see all the great content there. All right, Mr. Benja, take care.
Peace.